As a result of the negotiations between our lawyer Pavel Astachov and Antonio Paolucci in Florence in May 2005, it became absolutely clear that the art cartel had declared an unprovoked war on us. It also became evident that there was an unhealthy and incomprehensible interest in the self-portrait of Benvenuto Cellini from private but very influential individuals. Most people in Europe generally do not care about cultural heritage. At most, people pay attention only to the most famous names: Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Botticelli, Rembrandt, Rubens, or Raphael. This approach is partly the fault of museum workers, as they fail to reveal the intellectual potential of past masters in an engaging way. As a result, works of art today are evaluated exclusively on a scale of expensive and famous, or inexpensive and unknown. The art cartel, pursuing its own selfish goals, has effectively destroyed museum scientific work as such. Therefore, such an inadequate interest in the Cellini portrait could only be explained by the personal interest of a group of individuals or a single influential person. At that moment, the nature and reasons for this interest were unknown to me. However, I understood that the safety of the Cellini portrait was paramount. Therefore, my wife and I decided to organize and hold a press conference in Paris. Before the press conference, it was necessary to conduct a comprehensive objective analysis of the painting's materials and the anthropological, scientific identification of the face depicted in the portrait. There were only 2 scientific laboratories in France capable of conducting material analyses, one in Bordeaux and the other in Paris. We contacted the Paris laboratory, led by Madame Sylvaine Brahms, a restorer at the Louvre Museum and a forensic expert at the Paris Court of Appeal. Madame Brahms personally examined the portrait and took small samples of the painting's materials for analysis with a sharp tool. As a result, we obtained comprehensive information about the composition of the paper on which the portrait was created, as well as the chemical and physical composition of all the pigments used by the artist. The portrait was painted with oil paints on 16th century paper made of silk with small wool inclusions. Portraits on paper in the second half of the 16th century were not uncommon. Although this painting technique was innovative at that time, this technique came to Florence from Venice. 16th century paper is not similar in composition and properties to the paper we are used to today. This ancient paper was handmade from ground and decomposed silk rags. It practically does not age, and today, even after 450 years, it looks as good as new. The very fact that the portrait is done in oil on paper indicates that it is nothing other than a self-portrait. Firstly, works done in oil on paper were never handed over by artists to external clients because this painting technique was essentially used exclusively for creating sketches. Sketches were made during the preparatory stage for creating paintings that were then reproduced on wood or canvas. Secondly, there is a well-known self-portrait by the artist Sofonisba Anguissola, created in 1558, which is kept in the Galleria Colonna in Rome. This self-portrait, like Benvenuto Cellini's self-portrait, is done on paper and represents a successful sketch that the artist, like Benvenuto Cellini, completed as a finished painting with the intention of keeping it for herself and not giving it to anyone. The connection between this portrait by Sofonisba Anguissola and the Cellini portrait was not discovered by me. I will name the person who made this connection later. Both of these portraits were created using identical techniques, similar materials, and at the same time. Thus, the analysis of the materials of Cellini's self-portrait conducted by the Parisian IACC laboratory not only allowed for a precise determination of the portrait's age, but also substantiated its authorship. Given the importance of these findings, we later verified the conclusions of the forensic expert, Madame Brahms, using other methods of analysis in Mrs. Sarah Walden's laboratory in London and in the laboratory of the University of Genoa in Italy. All 3 studies reached the same conclusions. Generally, we have ample evidence to support Cellini's authorship, not solely based on material analysis results. I don't want to overwhelm you with information now. We will discuss this later. Thus, the laboratory analysis unequivocally showed that Antonio Paolucci simply lied to Astachov in Florence and did so consciously with personal selfish motives. From my point of view, Paolucci either displayed monstrous incompetence or consciously committed a criminal offense. To definitively determine the identity of the person depicted in the portrait, I decided to consult forensic anthropologists. To this end, my assistant in France contacted a high-ranking gendarmerie general and asked him for the name of the most competent anthropologist who could identify the person depicted. The gendarme unhesitatingly named this person. He said that in France, fortunately, there is a true god of anthropology who handles the most complex cases, including bank robberies, decomposed corpses, and other horrors of the criminal world. This god, according to the general, turned out to be the director of the Anthropology laboratory at Bernard Tour University in Lyon, Dr. Raoul Perrault. We immediately contacted this forensic expert, and he agreed to conduct an official examination. Later, Dr. Perrault published a scientific article about our case and became the most famous anthropologist in Europe working with Old Masters art. Dr. Perrault unequivocally confirmed the identification of Benvenuto Cellini in our portrait, as well as in other portraits and images we discovered. The press conference with the experts and the demonstration of the portrait took place in Paris at the press center of Salon des Verons in September 2005. Following this press conference, numerous articles appeared in the international press, including the Daily Telegraph, Corriere della Sera, French state television reports, and so on. However, during and after the conference, there were unpleasant incidents. Firstly, some Italians made complaints during the conference about our choice of venue, causing a scene because the painting was being displayed in a French press center rather than at the Italian Cultural Center at the Italian Embassy in France. This complaint was somewhat odd. Secondly, immediately after the conference, a woman called the personal phone of one of our company employees named Loic Cellier, identifying herself as a representative of the French magazine Connaissance des Arts. She rudely insulted Mr. Cellier, calling us all crooks, bandits, and scoundrels. I am not sure if this call was genuinely from the magazine. It was more likely a provocation from the Artcartel. After the conference, the painting was taken and transported to its permanent storage place by a specialized company that deals with packing and transporting works of art. It is evident that it was from this company that the Artcartel learned where we were storing the Cellini portrait. In September 2005, this portrait was stored in a bank vault at the Societe Generale Bank on Boulevard Haussmann in Paris. Storing the painting requires a fairly large safe, and finding safes of the appropriate size in modern Paris is very challenging. However, the bank on Boulevard Haussmann has a genuine underground palace spanning many floors. This luxury has been inherited from past centuries when gentlemen of previous generations still dressed elegantly and used large safes. As soon as the Artcartel learned where the painting was stored, they pressured this bank, and without any reason, the bankers decided to close our account and take away our safe. Subscribe to my channel, dear friends, as I will next tell you how the Artcartel, with the help of the Freemasons, began to suffocate and destroy our business. There will be many examples and useful information. See you soon.